Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry to run a little late. I was deciding if I was going to come or not. Cool outside. But I decided to make it here. I'd like to call the Community Development Committee meeting to order. And as customary, let's bow our head in silence, please. Amen. Thank you. And next, we have the public participation. I think we have one individual.
That is correct. Anthony Bryant sent a comment that I already forwarded to the committee earlier today, and he has also signed up to speak.
Okay, we'll give him a minute and a half.
All right? 1.5 minutes, Mr. Bryant.
Anthony G. Bryant, very rarely I'm here. Community development is so important to me, and I want to thank Gianna for all her hard work and also Bob, all the hard work he's done over the years. But we have to look at the facts now. We have a 0-0 basis between the county of Charleston and the city of Charleston. At $30 million offered to the city, puts Sanders Clyde, puts housing authority properties in the millions, Patriot Points in the millions, Union Pier in the millions. We've got 300 students at Charleston County School District at chronically unhoused. If you have this valuation so high, you're going to create 20,000 students, I think, to be at risk of being housed. And you possibly going to create 10,000 to be unhoused and 5,000 to be chronically unhoused, sleeping in parks or whatever, with Nancy Mason and Alan Wilson have human trafficking children ready to be in parks and motels and in the street. So the police department will give us a certain level of policing we never had before, which will justify use of force. So the causation of the said problems why I'm here, not the adverse effect of what you're going to discuss. Anthony G. Bryant, AG Bryant Group, Inc. is about causation only. We focus on the adverse effect because slavery was a causation. Jim Crow was a causation of the adverse effect we have right now. That's what I'm about. So I don't deal with adverse effect. That happened 400 years ago to me. All this is a mitigation. So we got to be about the business of understanding the impacts of the economic violence being created by developers through economics, through trust funds and all kind of stuff, economic violence against people that will be adverse effects in this country forever. We are creating a perpetual and permanent underclass in Charleston, permanent. We want our new Treasury Secretary and Senator Scott of Housing and Bank Committee to use Charleston as a model of improving the lives of everyday folk. Thank you for your service and time.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. We're on down to the approval of the December 19th minutes.
Move for approval.
Second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 I'm sorry, who was the second?
Opposes? I think that was Ms. Parker, Councilmember Parker, and
You seconded it,
Yeah, I
if I
seconded it.
believe.
Oh,
opposes. Ayes have it. We're on down to the presentation of the rapid housing option and potential action. It's going to be explained by whom?
I'll give the
Mayor
initial
Coswell.
presentation and then have Gianna and Latasha come up for questions. And do we have a clicker or anything? Give me a minute. Share the screen.
Can it be shared so that I can see it?
Yeah, we're sharing it now.
Okay, thank you.
Can everyone see this now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this can be a relatively brief presentation. The idea here is similar to what we talked about a couple of months ago with some significant modifications based on a number of conversations that I've had and staff has had with both nonprofit world and, of course, council members as well. So again, this is just to rehash the issue. You can see, based on current trends, the homelessness issue is increasing in terms of the region. This is, and the effort that we're putting forth here, I want to be very clear, and probably wasn't as clear as it needed to be in the last presentation, is that what this initiative would be is for folks that are experiencing homelessness that don't qualify for existing programs and initiatives like at 180 Place or Star Gospel Mission. This would be for folks that have mental illness, addiction issues, and would provide them temporary shelter along with wraparound services to hopefully get them onto a path to recovery and to stabilized housing. So just way I would phrase this is they would come here if they have something that disqualifies them for, say, Star Gospel, and once they were able to break an addiction through the services provided, they would in all likelihood move on to a Star Gospel or a 180 Place that would help train them up for the workforce so they can evolve back into more permanent housing. And again, this is, I want to be clear too, a regional initiative. This would not just be for the city of Charleston to do alone. I personally feel like if we were to try and do this by ourselves, it would fail. Just the last point I'll make there is that we need to do something. Again, the trend is not going in the right direction. We are not at a critical point, but we are getting there, and we need an answer to tell our constituents, to tell the community on how we're addressing this. And nothing is not an answer in my mind. And you know, the groups that say just put people in jail is certainly not the answer either. Moving on, again, just high level, doing this initiative would be a shared action with the other municipalities and government entities. I think would allow us to establish a proof of concept that this, initiative and rapid housing and temporary housing works. I think it's financially responsible because the city of Charleston wouldn't just bear the responsibility. This would be something we would share with other communities. I think it's socially responsible, then it's constructive. I think this is something that would allow us to learn, adapt, and evolve as a region on how to address this issue, because there's no silver bullet for this. What Houston might do doesn't exactly always work perfectly, so we need to figure this out as a region. And as I mentioned previously, this would complement other initiatives like 180 Place and Star Gospel and others. And then finally, while the Hope Center currently is a city-led initiative, the goal here would, because we have our own 501c3, is for this to evolve into a regional initiative. It would not just be the city of Charleston funding Hope Center. It would be a variety of sponsors, including municipalities and counties that choose to sign on, but also it could apply for grants and private sector donations as well. And again, it's a structure already set up. This is the solution that we've come up with. Again, individual units with connected bathrooms. The bathrooms was something that a lot of council members had concerns with, as well as other groups within the community. So we listened on that front and have connected bathrooms with the individual units. Again, this would not only the units would have a permanent facility there that would provide the wraparound services. There would be controlled access and security. This is not to lock people in. This would be to keep the residents safe and allow them in and out as they deem appropriate. Again, it's not meant to be in any way, shape, or form a prison. Again, collaboration with other governments. This would be nonprofit-led. And I think it's important to also note that this is temporary housing. This is not meant to be a permanent solution. This is to get people treatment and get them off of the street in a humane way and help them evolve into a more permanent and stable situation. This is the site, would remain. This is the city ops site on the Upper Peninsula. Where we would be looking at putting this facility is on that small jut out to the west of the parcel that is directly behind the Grow Food space and has its own access points. The revised plan, again, we listened to everybody. There were 118 units because of the bathrooms. It's been reduced down to 80 units. I think that's there were also concerns about the number of units being there. So I think 80 units is large enough to accommodate the overwhelming demand, but small enough to be manageable. And then again, we'll have the main building with offices, kitchen, multipurpose room, and convening space for existing services, as well as green space around the units themselves. Here's how it would kind of break out. It would still have these units, and then they would be around a bathroom facility. This is not directly in the units themselves, which is, we did a lot of research, and I know that was the goal of some folks, but the cost became very prohibitive, and the site design works became a real challenge. So what we did here is connected the units themselves with the bathrooms, so it's more feasible, and I can get into more specifics on that as well. Again, this is the main building. It hasn't changed much, but you can see how it's laid out. That is largely based on the programming and space needs of the original Hope Center design that Gianna will give a refresher on here in a few minutes. But there's some programming, if you will, behind this layout. Here's the exterior, and again, this is complementary to the aesthetic and design of the city ops building, so it'll fold in nicely with the city investment that's going on there. This is just a refresher on what we anticipate the startup cost to be, as well as a first year of operation, and how exactly that would be split down between other government entities is to be determined, but I think a logical way to do it would be on a pro rata basis based on population. We need to be prepared for not every municipality or county participating, but there's going to be a critical point that will be required in others to make this a reality. Assuming the counties do reasonably participate, as well as some of the other municipalities, we've gotten approval from the Hope Center board to evolve into a regional initiative that wouldn't just be city funded, and that the Hope Center would contribute their funding towards this initiative, provided it maintains the original intent of what the Hope Center was set up to do, which of course it would. So if you do that, then in terms of the city's initial investment, it's pretty minimal. I mean, I can't say it would be exactly that $371,000, but I think it would be in all likelihood under $1 million, which is a very, very, very cost-effective way of getting this thing off the ground. And then when you look at the annual operating expenses, again, if we're sharing this as a region and allowing private money to come in as well, this is an extremely cost-effective way for all government entities to have a solution to the homeless issue that is, again, growing. So again, I think we as a city, the city of Charleston being the largest in the region, we need to lead on this initiative. I know that it's often reported that no other city has signed on or no other county has signed on. Well, that's because they haven't been solicited yet. They haven't gotten this full presentation. I think the city of Charleston needs to lead on it, say we're committed to it, and then we go and sit down with them and we get their input on it and we get their tweaks to it so that they have buy-in to this initiative. Because again, this needs to be a community-led effort. So what I'm asking for here is for this committee to say, yes, we support this in concept. We're not committing any funds 100% to it, but we do want the mayor and this and any members of council that are interested to go and meet with Charleston County, with Berkeley County, with Dorchester County, with the city of North Charleston, with the town of Mount Pleasant, and say, would you support this effort? Would you be willing to contribute some money towards this? What would you like to see that might need to tweak these plans? And then we collaboratively come together and come back to city council with a finalized plan and a finalized budget and say that we're going to execute on this and move forward, and we're going to do this in a very timely fashion because this is, I think, an immediate need and a growing problem. So that's what I'm asking for. Again, I appreciate everybody's input to date. And I think this is a good resolution to get us to the next step. And happy to answer any questions you all might have. And also, if Latasha or Gianna, if y'all want to add anything to this commentary, please, by all means.
The Mayor, I have a number of questions, if I may.
Yeah, we got the chairman coming up.
Okay.
That's Councilman Gregory.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you can go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions just for clarity. What percentage, how long does it take for someone that's in rapid housing to clear whatever mental issues they may have, addictions that they may have, okay, to go be able to qualify then to go to 180 or the gospel mission? Do we have data on how long does it take someone to an addiction to clean up so that we're not, okay, getting into a situation where we're calling it rapid housing, okay, but it becomes something different than that? That's my first question. My second question, in terms of funding, if we're taking on the responsibility of the state with respect to mental illness, will the state then in some way subsidize us with this rapid housing program, just in general? Those are just a few questions that I have. And even more importantly, do we have any commitment from anyone other than ourselves at this point?
Well, we don't have commitment from ourselves at this point, so I want to have that first, and then we'll go and talk to other municipalities and other counties. I mean, I can tell you I've had a number of conversations with Mayor Burgess on this concept, and he's very supportive of a regional approach. You know, details to be determined. So I think, as I mentioned, I feel like it's being the largest municipality, we should lead the way on this. And then if we don't get the other municipalities or other folks to buy in, then I think we need to go back to the drawing board, because this is not, this cannot and will not work if it's just city-led. So in terms of the addiction stuff, I'll turn it over to the experts. Latasha, if you can maybe weigh in there.
Thank you, Mayor Coswell. Good afternoon, committee. So, Councilman Gregory, to answer your first question, what we're currently doing at the Hope Center is as follows. Whenever we encounter an unhoused individual who is in need of recovery or mental health services, we have embedded clinicians from the Department of Mental Health that comes to the Hope Center twice a week. In addition to this, we also have a peer support specialist and a substance abuse counselor who specifically works with this population. We sit down and we meet with the client. We conduct an intake or an assessment based on the client's answers to the questionnaire and based on our experience. If we determine that the client needs to go to a place like detox, for example, Charleston Center, we would then refer the client to Charleston Center. They would stay at Charleston Center for a determined amount of time to make sure they're not a risk to themselves, to make sure they're not a risk to the public, and they will go through the detox process. After the detox process is done, we will usually speak with the case manager at Charleston Center to determine if that client should remain in recovery at Charleston Center or if we should have that client go to a recovery home in the upstate or out of state. To date, we've been successful in getting 51 people into recovery. About 75% of them have been successful. While they are in recovery, we continue to conduct ongoing case management. We're checking in to make sure you're okay. Is this recovery working? As you are transitioning back to the public, how can we support you with housing? Do we need to do a referral to 180 Place to get you into the continuum of care? Is there a relative you can stay with? If we have financial assistance, can we assist with a down payment for an apartment, et cetera, et cetera?
Thanks for that answer.
You're
The
welcome.
mhm. The other question that I had was, right now the Hope Center is sort of a day center, right? Which is very different from rapid housing, because what we'll be doing in this case is we'll really be wrapping housing around it. Because right now we see them, they don't stay at our current center, right?
No, sir.
Right. And so what we're doing now is sort of presenting an opportunity to supplement what you're currently doing by providing them with housing, as well as all the other services you just talked about.
Yes.
Okay. Bathrooms. Where will the outhouses be?
So, Mr. Gregory, there are no outhouses. The restrooms are actually going to be attached to the units, to answer your question. And I think in a couple of slides before this one, there was a diagram that showed how the 80 units would look with the restrooms.
And then let me just ask you another question as we move forward, and I'll shut up in a minute.
Okay.
We did have, why can't we just lift what we had designed initially on Cunnington, okay, which was, at least in my estimation, could address the rapid housing as well as perhaps even some transition housing to move to permanent housing? This is the question. What is the difference between, okay, the rapid housing and what we were going to do on Cunnington before we even talk rapid housing?
Okay. So I'll let Gianna answer a part of that question, Mr. Gregory, but I did want to mention this to you. When this rapid shelter project was first presented, before I came to the mayor and talked with Gianna, I actually went to the people who are actually homeless to see what they thought. I didn't think it made a lot of sense to create something for a group of people that actually didn't work. And based on their experiences, based on the things that they shared that they needed, I then shared that information with the team, and collectively we came together and we sat down and we talked about it. At the Hope Center most recently, to kind of answer your question, we had an unhoused gentleman from New York City that lived in Charleston for 2 years. He was on the street chronically. He came to the Hope Center. We engaged in case management services with him. We helped him to get housed, and now he's a full-time city employee with benefits, and he's off the street. He is now serving as a lived experience person, where he's going back to other unhoused individuals and helping to encourage them to get off the streets, to help them get the soft skills that they need in order to transition and have a better life the way that he does. And I don't think that would be possible without the Hope Center and without the Rapid Shelter Program. We had an opportunity to have them tour the units themselves, and they liked it. They said it didn't feel like a prison, it felt warm, and it was better than being on the streets.
You make me so proud.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want to talk about the
Councilmember Gregory, on the Cunnington Avenue site, which Councilmember Mitchell asked us to bring a brief presentation on later in this meeting, the goal there was to build the Hope Center, very similar to what we're doing currently, except a brand new facility. The options there was to include to have overnight shelter in the case of adverse weather conditions. We did not offer or would not have offered permanent shelter in the Hope Center on Cunnington Avenue, but we did have flex space included there to allow for people to come in, us to separate men from women and children in order to provide what we currently do not offer very fluidly in the city of Charleston. Right next door to that, the goal is to build 98 units of permanent rental housing.
Correct.
You all approved an option to lease several months ago with the Conifer developers, and the goal there is to build permanent housing. So naturally, there would hopefully be an opportunity for those that are transitioning out of housing to also be able to rent eventually at that permanent housing there.
But one major difference between this and the rapid housing, meaning the initial Hope Center concept, was it would be all inclusive. This rapid housing is for one specific sex. The initially, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were going to try to address issues across the board. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. The goal is still to address issues across the board, Councilmember Gregory, if I'm understanding you correctly. And so they're doing that now at the Hope Center with a number of different partners that Latasha mentioned. In addition to that, PCAP, who is also a partner currently with the Hope Center, would also be embedded in the new housing that was constructed on the Cunnington site. And so there is some overlap, but on the Cunnington site, we did not have transitional or pallet housing included in that design.
Do we have the opportunity to do that now with this rapid housing concept? Because, and the reason why I'm pushing it is because we all know that the greatest need, that we have is families. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. And
okay. And so if that's the greatest need, then for me, that's where the greatest investment needs to go. I'm not saying that we should not do the rapid.
Can I get a point of clarification, Mr. Chairman? The greatest need in terms of number of housed that aren't eligible for other programs, i.e. the mentally ill, the addicted, is families or men?
so the people on the street are men. The number that is higher are women and children, but they are either in their cars or they're with Aunt Gianna.
No, I understand. I understand.
So they
I
are
understand.
not literally on the streets because they have people that will take them in. Men are not typically those that are taken in, and so consequently, they're suffering, and I see Dr. Platt over there shaking his head. Consequently, they're the ones that are encountering the harshness, if you will, of being homeless because they're on the streets encountering the harsh weather, all of those things that come with being on the streets.
So I think to Councilman Gregory's point, the need for temporary housing for those that don't qualify for other programs, the greatest need is men.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Any other question, Councilman Gregg?
Well, I mean, yeah, I understand that, but there's still a crucial need for families with children, even though they're housed temporarily with family, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I would just feel much better in terms of long term if we took this site, which is about what, 2 acres, and expand, what we're going to do there. Sure, we can do some rapid housing, but we can also do some transition and perhaps even some permanent with 2 acres. To me, And
I think that may evolve into a plan. I think this is still got to get other participants to buy in, North Charleston, the county, et cetera. I think we also have the Cunnington site that could provide permanent housing, the 98 units. In terms of the programming and the temporary shelter for the current plan for the Hope Center, as I understand it, the same concept and same programming is going to be in this facility. So it's kind of everything that the Hope Center is moved, and then include the rapid housing, which would just be for men right now as it's proposed. But then the idea could be on Cunnington, we could do more housing that might be more permanent in nature for families. The goal is to help everybody, but we got to start somewhere.
and I guess I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I mean, is it the Hope Center, the Tech Center? Which is it? I'm getting a little confused here on that too, the naming of it.
I think the naming is the tech. The building itself would be the Tecklenburg Center. The board is the Hope Center.
Okay, where I'm going with this, Mayor, is why can't we take the initial concept, okay, and move in that direction now, okay, with a focus on rapid housing. What I liked about the initial is, because we're going to have to get out of where we are very soon, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the Hope Center. And the services that they're currently providing, which is across the board, to me, that we should try to evolve this rapid housing into something closer to what we were doing at Cunnington. Because at Cunnington, while we might have had beds for overnight, okay, but we still were providing services across the board. So where my head is that why can't we take the concept and plan now for tomorrow? Because where we are now is not going to be there much longer. So for me, okay, why can't we do it all? What's the cost differential between the rapid housing, okay, and what we were going to do on Cunnington? I'm talking about the affordable housing units, okay, at all. I'm talking about all the rest of the stuff that we're going to do on Cunnington.
So if I may, the Cunnington, the Hope Center on Cunnington was $10 million, and $4.9 million has been raised.
Right.
We don't have the additional funds, and it was a city alone led initiative.
Understand.
So that would be a $10 million cost to the city versus a portion of a $5.5 million cost to the city on the property next to city ops.
So are we restricting our regional approach just to rapid housing? Providing rapid housing?
I think initially the Hope Center would be providing wraparound services and transitional housing. And then the Hope Center could eventually evolve into more permanent housing opportunities or joint venture with private developers like we're talking about doing on Cunnington, with a private developer to come in and provide housing there.
Okay, I'm gonna stop, but what I'm saying that we've got $5 million we're getting ready to invest, okay, in rapid housing, and we could have done, okay, well, on Cunnington, all right, for 10 mil, no. excluding the affordable units, okay. I'm just talking about the service, because we're gonna try to put in a permanent service facility that would replace what we've got now. Is that on King? I'm Meeting Street. Because I think that that has to be the direction that we take. And why can't that as well be regional? The whole homeless concept needs to be regional, not just rapid housing, to me.
Councilmember Gregory, if I can just take us back slightly, the funding that was raised for the Hope Center on Cunnington was
Went to-
raised in partnership with what was then the Mayor's Commission on Homelessness and Affordable Housing. That represented regional partners. So we literally had representatives from the city, town of Mount Pleasant, town of Somerville, and city of North Charleston, all participating on the Mayor's Commission. Palmetto Project was also a partner in that. And so the goal was to facilitate, create what we have now, the Hope Center, which has primarily been funded by the city of Charleston, but has also had donations from other partners that provides the services that Latasha mentioned. At no time did we have the opportunity within the Hope Center structure to date to include the housing. Even now, where we lease from on Meeting Street, the landlord prohibits us from allowing any overnight shelter. And so pallet housing or transitional housing, although not wildly supported by the federal government any longer, is a need for our community until we can meet the need of permanent housing, which we're still working on, by the way, with a number of partners, and you'll get a report from us in Bloomberg next week. But the goal is here to provide, in addition to those wraparound services, an opportunity to house folks until they can transition into permanent housing through Dr. Platt's organization, through Humanities Foundation, through whatever partner that we have that can house those individuals at the time. The gentleman that Latasha mentioned, he came in my office this week. He is in permanent rental housing at the time. He didn't have an opportunity for a pallet. He was on the street until he could get that housing. And I think I answered what you were posing, but that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Well, actually, you did answer. You're saying to me that we already had a regional approach in place. And to me, why can't we just build on that regional approach that you just explained? Why are we now going back to some of the same actors, okay, to say, are you in on the rapid housing? Why can't you just expand what you're already doing regionally to rapid housing?
That's what we're doing, council member.
That's what we're doing.
Yes, sir. We're just filling a void that currently doesn't exist in our community because the federal government wants permanent housing too, and we know that's a need. If you talk to those that are left in the federal government, they would tell you that the need for transitional housing still exists. It's still great. Latasha and her team can tell you they encounter the same folks on a weekly basis. I was talking to our outreach team member, really encouraging her the other day, because she's been with us now 3 years, and she says, Gianna, I've been talking to the same people for the last several years. Some get it, some don't. She says, but one of the things that I think is key for us is literally having a place where people can go, even if it's temporary, to call home until we can get them into more permanent housing. And so that's why we see this as an opportunity to help folks transition in, because we feel like a place to call home would allow them to then focus well enough where they could do all the things that Latasha and her team are recommending so that they could get in some units that Humanities has built or that Jay Bernstein and his team members can build.
Okay, I guess my question then is, okay, and this is the last question. My question then is, if we have the Hope Center Commission, okay, the Hope Center, whatever we call it, made up of all these different entities, municipalities included, right? I'm still a little puzzled at why this isn't just a natural part of that existing organization, our committee. I
Yes,
mean, why are we now? This is my confusion. I mean, if we're saying this is not a go if the others do not participate, my argument is they're already participating. Why?
yes,
Why?
Councilmember Gregory, if I could just share.
Excuse me,
Oh,
but
I'm
after
sorry.
the, Johnson, after this, I can let, Councilman McBride ask a question, Councilman Gregory. After this, answer, I can let Councilman McBride answer a question. He has his hands up for the longest. Thank you.
So you want me to answer? I was just going to add, Councilmember Mitchell and members of the committee, that the Mayor's Commission transitioned into what is now the nonprofit corporation,
Mhm.
was to Hope Inc., because we knew in order to advance the mission and to accomplish all that we have to in the community, in the homeless and unsheltered ecosystem, we wanted to be a nonprofit organization because we could pursue other funding sources that we could not pursue as simply a commission. Thank you.
Councilman McBride.
Yeah, thanks. Just, I want to just kind of re-encapsulate how I interpret this plan. And I am in support of this now based on all the changes and the more information that I have this time, is that there's right now, real world on the ground in Charleston, there's an increase in homelessness. And the highest proportion of that homelessness is that are on the street, that don't have shelter, aren't in a car, is men. And they're getting the least care because of various circumstances. And the existing nonprofit organizations have exceeded their capacity to help. And so this is in response to that. And it's a partnership. The government's helping the nonprofits with rapid shelters, and the term rapid meaning they're low cost, low maintenance, and can be scaled back if the homeless situation that we are existing in right now decreases in a couple of years. Let's say the economy increases, let's say the cost of living decreases, then maybe, hopefully, the hope is there's less homelessness, and then these rapid shelters could be scaled back if necessary. Is that correct so far? And I have a following comment.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. And
But-
I
Just for clarity,
go ahead.
I'm saying the existing, they're not exceeding capacity. These people just don't qualify because they have a mental illness, criminal background, blah, 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 blah. So it's not that they're exceeding their capacity. It's just that they don't have any place to go.
Actually, they are exceeding capacity and they don't have a place to go. It's both. Look at this graph on top. You have the number of unhoused versus the number of beds. This is a rapidly growing problem that we have. The number of beds is stable or kind of stayed the same, whereas the number of unhoused across the board is increasing pretty dramatically.
And that includes the folks that are staying with Aunt Mary and Susie, et cetera, right?
It's
That
based
number?
it's based on the pit count, which doesn't include the people staying with their families.
So it doesn't. Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Councilman McBride, you can go ahead.
Yeah. And so I did finally tour the Star Gospel Mission, met Dr. Platt. Very impressed with that whole organization and how, I've learned, the terms, low barrier to entry, high barrier to entry. And I understand now that Gospel Star Mission is more of a mid to high level barrier of entry. But what they don't currently have capacity for, when, as you see in this chart, there's an increase in homelessness, that a lot of those people don't qualify, as Councilman Gregory said, don't qualify for either 180 Place or Star Gospel Mission. so that this rapid shelter system with wraparound services from Star Gospel Mission, 180 Place, can help the people that only qualify for a low barrier of entry to get more stabilized, to get to hopefully, pardon the term, graduate to a higher level of entry, to enter into places like Star Gospel Mission that are right now expanding. I think they're building 70 new rooms, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Platt. I'm not in the room. I can't see a thumbs up or anything, but I think you guys are investing in 70 two new buildings, and one that includes women and children. That just is starting right now. So that's all on the private side, which is great. And I think that's kind of the point, is I just wanted to see, which I do believe that this complements this rapid housing program, meets an immediate need that exceeds the private organization's ability to help these homeless people, the unhoused. And then with the expansion of Star Gospel Mission and other ministries in the area, that hopefully the idea is to help these low barrier to entry folks that would go to the rapid housing with the wraparound services and the help that they would eventually get into Star Gospel Mission and like places. Is that a good summary?
Yes. Very good.
Great. Okay. I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
clarify that. Thank you.
Anyone else? I don't think I see anyone else here. Okay, back down to me. I don't have a problem, and I want to stress that I don't have a problem with the rapid housing. My problem is that I always tell, and I even mentioned this to Mr. Mayor, I came up a little differently in the city of Charleston. And it just appealed me to have what we have, all these people in one location, and I just can't wrap my head around it yet. And I still haven't done it yet. Being one of the individuals on city council that have been out here in this community a long time, even in the civil rights movement a long time, even got arrested almost 17 times, a long time, and seeing a whole lot of things that happen in this peninsula, even in the city of Charleston. So when it comes to something like that, it just kind of threw me off a little bit. And I know we have a problem with homelessness, because I live on King Street, and they come by my house like 1 o'clock and 1:30 in the morning. People tell you, they always stop by my house. My house is an open door. They say, "You're not afraid?" No, I'm not afraid. I have females coming by my house 1:30 in the morning. I give them clothes that my nieces give me with tags on it that they're not using, because my nieces, they buy, my grands and all, they buy all these expensive clothes. They come by my house and I give it to them. Those are females. We don't see how many females out here, single females that's out here in this community. I'm gonna tell you, it's a whole lot. I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and you talk about homelessness, I don't even see it here in Charleston. I see a lot in North Charleston on Rivers Avenue and on Sproul Avenue and other places, because I travel all over those places. Even Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, you want to see homelessness? Go down downtown Atlanta. Pastewood all over the streets. That's right down the hotels downtown in Atlanta. We don't see that here. But we got a problem, and we're going to have to deal with it. I'm not even going to get into the Cunnington Street property again, because I think we have undone enough with that tonight. The Cunnington Street property was something that I looked at because it was approved by council at the time. And when something is approved, then it seemed to me should have come back to council, address that and say, okay, we're going to make these changes. And that's what I look at once something is approved. And that's what I'm looking at, and Mr. Mayor, along with everything that's happening. We approved that. We had the groundbreaking for it, because I was there. I was a part of it. And that's what I'm saying. We are doing this and we are shifting over, but we never came back to council and say, hey, okay, we're going to make a shift because we're going to move this over here and let council vote on this to move it over. I like to do things decent in order. That's just the way I am. I'm just kind of crazy that way. But this is what I'm saying. So when people come and ask me these questions, So how could you, council, approve it and you're doing something else, but it never was changed? You're all switching it over, but you never came back to council at all. Some of the council's not saying nothing because, I don't know, they must be afraid, but I'm not. I never was.
No, if,
You know, Mr. Mayor, that's what I'm saying. We approve it on council, right?
this is bringing it back to
No,
council
no.
to approve
What I'm
this
saying,
change.
we approve it on council, the Connington Street property. Whitby was going to plan to do that. That was approved and the groundbreaking was done. Correct?
Right, but it
I-
wasn't funded.
Nope, no, but I'm saying it was approved, it was funded, but it wasn't funded enough
Right.
to be completed.
Right.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. So it should have been coming back to council first and say, look, this was approved, but we are planning on something, initiative that's different, and that's kind of changed it. So council can say, okay, we move it over. We have voted, and that's all I'm saying. You know, I'm
Fair
not,
enough.
I'm not getting into that.
Fair enough.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not getting into all, but that's what I'm saying. So people can see the transparency of, okay, council was involved in, council said, okay, we're going to just move that over to the rapid housing. I don't have a problem with rapid housing. Even if I don't support it, I don't have a problem. My problem is that the way I came up and the way I see it, I can't wrap my head around it yet. And I told you that before.
Yep.
And I have not changed to that. Stargard's Permission, I was working with Stargard's Permission for 33 years. So far as homelessness, because that's what I did. Okay. They did a marvelous job ever since I was working with them. Now they're going to something different to the work with females now. Once they get this building built, that's going to help. It's going to help. But then I also want to see the other municipalities come forth before I even support it. Let's say, okay, Charleston, we're a leading city. We should jump on this. I've been hearing that so long, I get tired of hearing it. Just because we're the largest city in the state of South Carolina. If these other municipalities want to come on it and we explain to them what's happening, give them opportunities, say, okay, we will come into it. North Charleston said yes. I already heard this already. The mayor from North Charleston. I already heard it already. I get, everybody calling me for everything. So he's going to be on the board. If you get these other people on the board, we can say, okay, we have all these municipalities that they are participating in, or they would like to participate in. You bring it to council and say, okay, it's fine. But we are putting a lot of things that hopefully that we would do it because we're going to jump out and say, okay, we are doing it. We're supporting it now. So would you come out and help us to support it? Come on and support it. If you see the need that's there, if they see the needs that's there, they should support it anyway. That's all I'm saying. So that's my problem and my dilemma on it. So I'm not even getting into the Connington Street property because I think it had enough dialogue with it from Councilman Gregory. And most of the questions he already answered, so asking, so I wasn't going back through all that again because I got another meeting to go to anyway. So, my meeting is, I try to keep it going. So that's my dilemma on it.
Mr. Chairman, this is the last thing I'll say on this, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
One more.
Yes, I will support this if, okay, we combine what we were going to do on Connington with this approach. And why I'm saying that is because we already had buy-in from many of the people that we're now going to go to about rapid housing.
Fully support that. Fully support it.
Okay, I will support it if we combine it.
Great.
Okay.
So you want to make a motion to that end?
Yes, I move, okay, that we combine, okay, what was proposed for Connington, okay, with the rapid housing approach.
I'll second it so we can put this discussion. Any discussion on it? We have a motion, we have a second.
I'm in favor.
All in favor, vote for saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposes?
Abstain.
Who's that, Ms. Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know you was here.
I'm here. I've had my little hand up.
Well, I didn't see it. You want to ask
That's
a
okay.
question, Ms. Parker?
Nope.
Oh,
I just
okay.
have to step out. I have to step out, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, okay. We have another meeting at the Human Resource Committee meeting. So we're going to bypass the Cunningham Street property. We go into the presentation
No. We haven't voted yet, have we? Did we vote? Yes,
All in
Yes,
favor,
we
vote
did.
by saying aye.
we did. Aye. We did.
I thought I did that.
Yes, you did.
Close the
I'm
stage.
sorry.
Maybe moving right along. Presentation of the
Abstention. The clerk has my abstention.
Yes, I got that. We make sure we have one extension. It's all done. Number 2, presentation of the approval for the City of Charleston accommodation tax review, housing impact analysis. I don't think it's going to take too long.
So included in your package is the full document, which I'll refer to now as the ATAX housing analysis. The Senate bill was passed in 2023 to allow for 15% use of the accommodations tax towards affordable housing. As part of that, we did develop the housing impact analysis, which we will amend to the comprehensive plan. We went to the Planning Commission last night and got approval for that. And now I'll give you just a high-level overview of what went into the analysis and the next steps that we have to do. So in our analysis, we included some of the challenges that are faced, as well as how we address those challenges, and then also the long-term impact of this influx of money towards affordable housing.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So some of the challenges that we face here are the high housing costs, also the population growth, as well as typology of housing due to the changes in the population. Also, the employment analysis was very revealing as to what professions could actually afford housing costs in Charleston. This is a little bit of a restatement of some of the things we looked at in the analysis. We looked at average costs. We used some pretty recent examples of development for rental, for sale properties, as well as preservation programs and average costs for those. Then finally, the long-term impact. The use of funds right now is through 2030. It's assuming an average of $2 million annually. And then we would be able to expand the current programs and have a extra dedicated funding source and opportunity for leveraging. So that is the high level overview of it. Again, the next steps are once we get through CD committee, we'll need to submit it to the Department of Revenue as well.
I'm losing you. I can't hear
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry, I'm not up at the mic. I was looking at my notes. The next steps are we need to submit it to the South Carolina Department of Revenue and the South Carolina Tourism Expenditure Committee. And then Christopher, to actually amend the comp plan after CD. Okay. Those would be the next steps. So I can answer any questions anybody might have.
Do we need an approval? All right,
Anyone have any questions?
I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Was moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Was moved and second. All in favor, vote by saying aye. You have
Aye.
questions?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Okay, the last thing on the agenda is the update on the comprehensive plan amendment for the waterfront redevelopment district planning, preservation, and sustainability.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. IT, if I could have share so that I can just quickly bring up the information and I'll very, very quickly go through this. IT.
What was that, Mr. Summerfield? Do you want IT to share it?
Well, I just need to have permission to share. It's telling me someone else is sharing.
Okay, hold on one second. Here, try one more time, Mr. Summerfield.
So hopefully you see the slide. So real quick, as was mentioned just a moment ago, the ATAX housing analysis did the amendment to incorporate that into the comprehensive plan was one of the amendments that went to Planning Commission last night. That will be on the council agenda on March 25th for a public hearing and first reading with eligibility, assuming it's approved for first reading, eligibility for adoption in at the first meeting in April. In addition to that amendment, we did have the waterfront, the urban waterfront future land use designation that went before there. Just real quick, so you know, so that we make a record that about the public process that went into creating this amendment. You know, there was a community-led union peer planning that was done with the Sasaki Group and the folks from the College of Charleston Riley Center. They had several meetings. They had a website that they had put up that received survey responses, as well as quite a bit of traffic of folks just trying to learn about the work that they were doing at the time. Concurrent with that, the city led Peninsula waterfront land use planning work as a part of our Peninsula Plan effort that included the Peninsula Plan kickoff, where we talked about this, a specific focus on water first, which included this waterfront conversation, including a waterfront tour where we actually took stakeholders out on a boat to actually go out and see the waterfront, the areas that we were talking about from the water side. It included a phase one feedback session, which we had a very robust participation with. And then we circulated the draft language amongst stakeholders and had a meeting to review that with them just last month in preparation for Planning Commission, which was last night, this update to CD Committee today, and then obviously coming to City Council in March with the final language in the ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan. Just a quick reminder, the comprehensive plan lays out all of our future land uses in this matrix that you see here. What we are proposing to do is add one more land use to this matrix. That would be this urban waterfront designation. You can see the current comprehensive map, our comprehensive plan map that shows specifically for the peninsula the different future land use designations throughout the area. We did have in the existing adopted map, we had the area down here where Union Pier is that had been denoted as future planning area. Per this amendment, we would change that from future planning area to urban waterfront and change the color here. And here's a blow up just so you can see the detail of that. The other part of this is that we would be introducing the text that kind of describes at a very high level what the expectation from the city is vision-wise for a waterfront. I'm sorry, a future development that may occur within an urban waterfront future land use designation. At this time, that would only be Union Pier, but again, we have other sites around the city that we've been talking about through the Peninsula Plan process where it may be appropriate now or in the future to look at those sites and look at designating them under this designation into the future. So this was the draft language that was shared with stakeholders at the meeting and circulated with some of our partners. Again, the most comprehensive description that we have for any of our future land use designations, based on feedback that we received from stakeholders and from other parties that we shared this with. This is what the final draft of this language looks like. The yellow highlights are the elements that were added pursuant to those conversations with our stakeholders. And so as of now, this is the language that would come before council for that public hearing and potential first read, and would be open for council discussion when that comes forward on March 25th for that first reading. And so we just wanted to give the CD committee, as per their request, about anything that would be coming forward to city council regarding updates to the comprehensive plan or the zoning code, information on what's coming, so that when this does come forward in March, there's no surprises for anyone. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Christopher Morgan is there in the audience as well, and attended last night's planning commission. It was voted unanimously by the planning commission to adopt this language and adopt the amended map, as well as to approve the ATAX analysis for inclusion in the housing element of the comprehensive plan. With that, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, that is just a quick update. And no action is required on this by the committee.
Okay, thank you. I would ask one thing before the mayor comes, that if you can send a copy of this to all the council members so they can be aware of it prior to coming to council?
Yes, sir. So we have, this presentation has been shared with the clerk's office. I would ask them to send it out to everybody as a part of their information. And then the final ordinance version of this, we'll make sure is shared out as a part of the agenda packet before it comes forward on the 25th.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, while Mr. Summerfield says that there's no action, I would actually say, I mean, would it not be appropriate, Mr. Chairman, for this committee to vote approval of this, to recommend approval to city council as a whole?
Well, but this is a presentation. I think we can make a motion that we accepted the presentation and forward to city council.
I'll make said motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Questions? Aye. No questions? Ayes have it. Opposes?
Just a comment. I abstain. This is a larger topic. I don't like the habit that I've noticed of us voting to accept a presentation. That's just a personal preference of mine. I just don't understand the reason for that. It's a good presentation. I like it, but I abstain because I don't know what the point of voting yes or no on that for means.
Fair enough.
I got you. Okay. All in favor, vote by saying aye. We already carried, so motion is carried.
Because we're amending the comprehensive plan, right?
Yes, Councilman Gregory, that would be ultimately where this would end up in April, would be an amendment to the comprehensive plan to incorporate the ATAX analysis that was in the previous item, as well as this new language, this new designation, and an update to the map to reflect the Union Pier site as the first urban waterfront future land use designation location.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I would also ask the mayor, if possible, if he can even still reach out to all the municipalities pertaining to the rapid housing while we are going through all this, to see just the feelings of what they might feel about it in the meantime before it comes back to council. Just give me an opportunity to do that while this time is lingering on. Thank you.
As long as we're clear, it's not just the rapid housing.
No, it's both.
Okay.
But I want the rapid housing portion too, that you really to say if they're going to join in and kind of join in with us with this to see how it's going to fare out, just to give a little idea of what's going to happen with that. Any other questions? Anyone have any questions? Anything else? If not, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.